T Morrow by Paul John Lim, Part 9. Last time, we left Thomas just preparing to leave to go back to find Letty. The device hummed and Thomas placed the journal and a few keepsakes into the box on the device. He knew the annual circus would be there at the same time and place each year, so he chose 1881. The year felt right. He had used the same location dial settings he had carefully noted in his notebook after the device had returned from Letty's disappearance, before he changed them for his future journey. Hopefully they would take him to Harting or Hampshire at the very least. He boldly pressed the lever and his journey began. Meanwhile, back in Harting, 1881. It was a normal day for Letty, up early practising with Sal, being encouraged by Colette from down below in her three-wheeled wheelchair. It had been 3 months since Letty had returned and was doing well, headlining the new act. Colette was now needing care most of the time, day and night, but they had worked out a plan that ensured she could be helped. At first she said she wanted to die, and had told Letty as much. But her love for Sal and his love for her gave her a reason to come to terms with her fate. They even got Olroyd to pay for a wheelchair to be made, so they would stay. The press coverage had increased visitor numbers, who you would hope were not there to see another bad fall, but that was the thrill of it all anyway, perhaps. That evening all three were in Sal and Colette's trailer. They were making Colette comfortable in her bed. Colette said, "Letty, you cannot spend your life looking after me. I feel so useless." Letty said, "I am here as long as you need me. I owe you my life." Sal said, "As I told you, Letty, we would cope, but I do not honestly know how we would without you, Letty." Sal then said, "You still need to find out who you really are, Letty." Letty said, "I will when I can, perhaps when we overwinter. I can try to find my relations again." Colette said, "You should, but we will miss you, albeit for a short time." Sal said, "I best go and get you a plate of food while there still is some. You coming with me to give me a hand, Letty?" Letty replied, "Okay, Sal. Are you okay, Colette?" Colette said, "I'm fine." Sal and Letty walked to the small tent, where the cook, who was also the rope man, hairdresser, and everything else, was laying out bowls on a long trestle table. Cook said, "Hi, my favourite people. How's my other favourite today?" "Still bending my ear," replied Sal. "She is the boss, you know." Cook laughed and carried on putting out bowls. Cook said, "You want soup?" "Soup or soup?" Sal said, "Dripping on toast would be nice, but I suppose soup will have to do." Cook said, "Moan, moan, moan," laughing. As they walked back to the tent carrying Colette's along with their own bowls, Letty could tell Sal wanted to say something. His pace had slowed, and he was gazing forwards into space as he walked. Letty said, "What's on your mind, Sal?" Sal said, "Am I that transparent?" "Well, I feel so guilty, you having to come back. I didn't think you would ever be back." Letty said, "Well, here I am, and you stuck with me. One day I may tell you a story that you will not believe. If I ever leave, I will explain how I believe I came to be here." Sal looked questioningly at her, but at that point they were already on the trailer steps, and Sal didn't get a chance to ask about it. Letty was bleary-eyed. She had not slept well at all. The last time she felt like this was Midsummer Eve, and felt unusually anxious. She walked across to get breakfast when she saw Ethel just in the distance. Letitia shouted, "Morning, Ethel! Looks like we may be in for a bit of stormy weather later, looking at those clouds." Ethel seemed not to have heard her, and was in a rush. She saw her enter a caravan, and slam the door shut. As it was Saturday, Letitia was hoping to go to the new bookshop which had recently opened in Harting, immediately after practice, before the matinee show. She could pick up something to eat, as circus fare was a little basic. She saw Sal carrying Colette's breakfast back to the caravan and shouted to him, "Morning, Sal. Can we do 10:30 today, as I want to walk up to town to the market?" Sal replied, "No problem. Can you get Colette something from the tobacconist? You know which sweets she likes." Letitia shouted she would, and decided to go sooner rather than later. She could swear she just heard a rumble of thunder in the far distance. Just in case, she grabbed a raincoat. As she walked, periods of sunshine showed a picturesque rural scene she never tired of. In the distance, the clouds were thickening, so she hurried apace. This was her normal life, and she had to admit she loved it, but at the same time she had hoped her feelings for Thomas would have waned. She almost had a date a month ago with Daniel, who looked after the tiger and lions, but he always smelled so strongly of them she cancelled at the last minute. Circus life invariably was a close group of families who tended to marry into each other's families. As such, she did wonder if there was often a freak show because of this. She was friends with Little Jimmy and Big Wally, the two dwarves who were part of the clowns, and Glenda May, the bearded lady. Sal said she really did have a beard when she asked. She did a little window shopping at the bookshop, but the prices were a bit high, so she didn't go inside. Instead, she headed off to the bookstall, but found nothing. Armed with some fruit and a bag of sweets, a bag of humbugs for Sal, and once out of sight, she began sucking a lolly on her journey back. 15 minutes earlier, a stranger had arrived at the circus. He looked around and saw the tents. He had asked a lady in the fortune-teller's tent where he could find Letitia. She had said, "Oh, I knew you would come," and had hugged him with tears in her eyes, and told him where Letty would probably be on market day, that she'd seen her leave earlier, going towards town. He left her tent. She was smiling and crying at the same time. Thomas walked slowly at first, then faster, then found himself almost running, smiling from ear to ear. The song Sunshine Saturday ran through his head as tears ran down his cheeks. Could he really have found her at long last?
Nothing's gonna break me, nothing's going to get me down. I'm way above the stormy clouds, there's blue sky all around. There's nothing anyone can say to me that will bring me down. I can hear them, I can see them, they're way below, down on the ground. Sunshine Saturday, nothing matters day. Self-delusion is coming fine. I can dance in the stars if I choose to end the time. Sunshine Saturday, it's my day. You can all go and jump for what I care. It's my day today. Nothing's going to break me, nothing will get me down. I'm way above the stormy clouds, and in the blue sky all around. can hear them, the rain below me on the ground.
In the far distance he could see a girl. As he ran closer, he saw she was wearing a pretty country dress, with a raincoat over her arm. The other arm held the strap of a bag on her back. He was sure it was Letty. He shouted, and she looked up down the path which led to the circus. She wondered who that bad man could be. He stumbled and fell, but got straight back up and ran even faster. He was shouting her name. Her name. She took the lolly out of her mouth and shouted, "Thomas!" He waved frantically, and she ran, throwing down the raincoat, kicking off her shoes so she could run faster. They collided, and Thomas lifted her and swung her around as their lips met, their tears blending as one in an explosion of love. After the longest kiss, she let out a huge sigh, and her body began to relax a little. Thomas fumbled into his pocket, found the box, and then dropped to his knees. He took out the ring and took Letitia's hand and asked Letty, "Will you marry me?" Letitia wiped away the tears from her eyes and cheeks, and surprised herself by not saying yes immediately. Instead, she bit her lip and looked at Thomas, whose smile disappeared, and his expression turned to sadness. Letitia took his other hand and said, "I have so often dreamt, in my wildest dreams, that you would return. I secretly hoped that if you did, we would marry and stay in this time forever." Thomas slowly pulled his right arm, holding the ring slowly back to his side, looking dejected, and stood up. He looked like a frightened puppy, she thought. Thomas said, "You don't want to marry me? What have I done wrong? I have been stuck in the past, and have never ceased to find a way to get to you, Letty." Letty said, "I wonder, would you want to stay here, or would you want to leave?" Thomas said, I don't know what I believe. It is not as if I've thought this through. My head has just been filled with the getting here. I want to be with you more than life itself. But this unique opportunity, this chance to visit times and places, surely you would want to go too, Letty. I'm surprising myself, but yes, perhaps just a couple of times, just to be able to recall it in my old age. I love you, Thomas, and I want a family. You love this period, and now I have lived in it, I love it so too. I can think of no better place to start a family. She then suddenly realised their circus life and the life she hoped for here with Thomas were not the same thing, and became confused. She sat down on the grass, which was still slightly damp from the dew. Thomas sat down too, and holding her hands he said, "I want that too, but I have to get this out of my system. I hoped you would go with me." She was angry that she found herself crying again. Thomas reached to put his arms around her, but at first she started to push him away, then instantly let him hold her. It felt right. It felt good. She knew she needed him. He was the other half of her soul. After a few seconds that seemed like minutes, she had realised what she wanted, and said, "Okay, Thomas, this is what I would need to happen to marry you. I will give you 3 years. I will go on the odd journey with you, to ensure that you will be able to return to me. After that time, you will stay here for good, and we will live our life here in 1884 permanently. I will also need a huge commitment from you to be able to do this, and a big favour, which I'll discuss with you soon." Thomas's smile reappeared. Thomas, "Okay, the present and future Miss Letitia Morrow, I agree to your marriage terms. I love you so, Letty. I will say this, if at any point you don't want me to go, I will understand. I will stay, and I won't sulk, and I won't pout. I have missed you for so long, and yes, you too are the other half of me, and I ache when we are apart. I did not realise back then, or was it up then in 2024? I have had experiences the likes of which you would not believe." Letitia stood up, smiling, took his hand and placed the ring on her finger. She pulled him to his feet, and Thomas was stunned by the strength she had. Letitia, "Well, we are engaged then, Thomas." They both smiled and were happy. Holding each other, they kissed. A few spots of rain landed on them. Then the distant thunder got louder. The sun went behind the thunderheads. The wind came from nowhere, Letty ran back to get her bag, shoes and raincoat, and was soon back at Thomas's side. Then, as heavier rain began to fall, they began to run in the thunder as the rain got heavier, hammering it down. The thunder now was closer. Lightning was striking the distant hills. Soon they were in Letty's caravan, soaked through to the skin. They caressed and kissed. It didn't matter. They were together again. At least for a while. This is the end of Part 9 and the end of Book 1 of the Dr. T Morrow story. Join me in the future for more adventures with Dr. T Morrow in Promise to a Yogi. The Dr. T Morrow concept, story and production by Paul John Lim. The narration was read by the author and all music written and all instruments played by the author. The project uses songs from my back catalogue and some written specifically for this project. These are available soon from usual outlets. Thank you for listening. We may meet again soon. Paul Lim, 2024. Or is it?